Hello, hello. Is anyone watching this?
They might be.
Hey, Tennille, can you by chance pull it up on your phone so you can see if this audio is working?
This is a good test, though, isn't it?
Yes. If you can hear us, we did not plan to be... We're filming from my phone because YouTube did not want to load on to my laptop like it normally does. I guess the Wi-Fi is not really working. Yeah, do that. Can you just check the audio?
Yeah, because we want to. This is a new microphone, so we don't know what the quality is going to be like.
And we have no idea if this mic works. It works? Sweet.
Nice.
All right. Hey, one
That's
more
great.
test. How does it sound? Angle towards... How does it sound now? Oh, perfect. Awesome. So it picks up a little diagonally. All right. Well, I'm doing the show today with my guest. Oh, thank you for the... sorry we're late. We had technical issues getting started, as you heard. We're doing my show with Garth Ogle, soon to be author. Well, are you an author when you write the book or when you publish the book? At what point are you an author?
I think that also has to do with how much conceit you have.
How much conceit?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to write a book, but I've never yet gotten past one chapter of anything I've tried to write.
If you're conceited enough, as soon as you've written it, you're an author because you authored it.
But I mean, I guess that's true. Okay.
I mean, you don't have to publish anything. So it's not.
It's true.
It's no requirement.
Maybe we should do the phone every time because it just looks. I think the
it gets
picture looks
good.
more crisp.
Yeah, the optics on the phone are probably better.
Yeah, should have gave you makeup though.
I'm looking too dull in the light.
Yeah, you just would look better with makeup.
I'm sure everybody looks better with makeup.
Not that I wear. Oh, what's the beer? Cheers to what?
To Brett Kavanaugh. Is that how
Cheers
you say
to
it?
Brett Kavanaugh. Yep, look, we're halfway to being rapist. There's the first complaint against my channel.
Ouch.
Just kidding. Was that a violation of YouTube guidelines?
To make a joke about
beer and rape? Beer and rape.
I don't know.
No. Anyway. On to business. I'll be interviewing this guy in like an hour. You'll just have to look at him. You can respond to things that I say.
Okay.
But anyway, remember, I think I mentioned Giacomo last week. Giacomo.
Oof. I think you may have.
Well, anyway, I missed it, but my priest approached me after liturgy today, and he was like, Michael. So I was reading Orthodox in Dialogue, and you were mentioned at the end of the article. And immediately my heart was filled with joy as I heard who mentioned me. So if this guy is mentioning you in a negative light, I take that as a badge of honor. Anyways, I want to read the article.
So he's kind of the Paul Krugman of Orthodoxy.
I guess.
If Paul Krugman says bad things about your economic views, chances are they're probably pretty good.
Probably. The only thing that stinks about this are people didn't get the original link, I guess.
Oh, man.
So, hey, those of you watching, if you could share this with this link, that would be great. We can get some more people in here. I know everybody's up. That includes you, too. Everyone in our live audience.
That's right.
Oh, hey, look, my
live audience.
My backdrop actually looks good when I iron it. Looks good when I iron it.
Yeah. It looks like we're in the middle of a 18th century novel concerning the sea. It's
There's a hole in the bottom of the sea.
It's gonna be shanty time if you're not careful.
Shanty?
Yeah, sea shanties.
Anyway, all right, let me read this. It's Giacomo being Giacomo, or I'm sorry, I mispronounced his name, Giacomo. Man to man.
Is that a Kai?
What?
Never mind.
Man to man. What too many men don't get about sexual assault by Giacomo Sanfillipo. This article has proven difficult not only to write, but even to decide whether to publish it. For one thing, I have a personal investment in the topic of sexual assault, as I shall relate briefly. And for another, I wish to express my support for women, but in a manner that they see as proper. That, of course, they all uniformly see as proper. My experience of sexual aggression has ranged from the violence of getting beaten up when I was 19 and he was 20. What?
Well,
he got beat up. That's
by a man. Yes.
By a man.
Well, I mean.
I guess when you're gay, that you would just take all violence as sexual. I mean, I guess it's sexual to him, since he's
weird.
I don't know. Anyway, to the aim of forcible intercourse with a woman over my strenuous objections.
What?
Parentheses. Oh. Yes, it's possible. To the nuisance of unwanted touching and physical advances that are more easily rebuffed.
So wait. He wasn't. Look, I'm not going to be, totally inappropriate here, but usually a man who becomes homosexual is assaulted sexually by a man. So
she must have been a really ugly woman.
Poor guy. I kind of feel sorry for Giacomo now. But anyway,
I mean,
not that sorry.
Not
just a little bit of human sympathy for the man.
I mean, obviously he has issues. But,
yeah. We wouldn't want to perpetuate the stereotype of not taking assault against men seriously.
I mean, I guess it's possible, but usually don't they have to do? It's not usually overpowering. It's usually by other means, like
like with a gun,
drugging or a weapon, or
yeah. I mean, there was a story not long ago where I think a woman was arrested for. Oh right, she had a hatchet. She tried to. Her boyfriend was like at their apartment or whatever, and she came home drunk and attempted to basically force herself upon him, which of course she couldn't because she wasn't stronger than him. So while she was raving, he went into the bathroom and locked himself in, and she got this hatchet and whatever, was trying to break down the door, but he called 911. Smart man. It's like, I'm not. He's just trying to beat down the door.
Well, that sounds a lot more traumatic than anything Giacomo went through. So anyway, shall I keep going? I only have 39% on my phone that I didn't plan to use for this. So
we can always plug it in.
Yeah, I guess so. If you see us panic looking for a cord, I did not bring it today.
Well, my phone doesn't have much charge either.
What kind of phone do you have?
Samsung.
And it's probably the same.
It's probably an Android, right?
It's like the micro little.
Oh.
All right. Well, we have a backup plan. Do you have a charger with you? Oh, never mind. We have no backup plan.
But don't we have like a micro USB cable somewhere here? Because you use them for other devices.
I don't know. Let's just get through the show before it runs out of power.
Yeah. Darling here. We're talking while the phone is slowly running out of energy.
So the first two instances involve someone that I loved. This made the incidents at the time, and continues to make the memory of them even now, all the more painful a wound. As the decades pass, one doesn't dwell consciously on these memories day and night, but neither does the wound entirely go away. One never knows when and why the visuals will resurface in the mind's eye. Unbidden and without warning, you simply don't get over it, no matter how much you might like to. It remains a big deal for the rest of your life, even if buried most of the time in your subconscious. Being a snowflake, rough life. Here are two true stories of male versus female sexual assault. The first related to me by the victim, whom I'll call Sandra, and the second by the perpetrator, whom I'll call Paul.
Paul.
Paul. Interesting choice. Why would he use the name of an apostle to describe a
Couldn't he use
rape
like
victim?
Hector or something? Or Ajax?
Or Juan? Or
Juan?
Jamal?
Jamal?
Juan or Jamal?
Pedro?
Pedro? F-A.
What about Achilles? I'm sure he
Achilles?
assaulted a lot of women.
Probably. Before they figured out where his heel was.
That's right.
So a few years ago, Sandra and I reconnected on Facebook. It all starts on Facebook. We met in 1964 when we started 4th grade together and last saw each other when we finished 12th grade in 1973. When we sat face for the first time in over 40 years, we both felt an immediate brother-sister bond that we never had as kids. Over the course of many hours, she opened up to me about sexual trauma from her childhood and adolescence, at home and in school, with which she struggles to cope this day. Hello, haven't seen you in 40 years. Let me tell you about that one time I was sexually assaulted.
The question I would have is, how did they get onto that topic?
I don't know. Maybe they were... Never mind.
Seems an odd topic. It's like you go to your 50th reunion, the person's like, oh, by the way, I was beat constantly from when I was 6 to when I was 12. You're like, really?
Mm.
Oh, well, good to beat you too.
Anyway, in junior high, somewhere between the age of 13 and 15, Sandra was sitting in class when the alpha male boy in the desk behind her reached around and grabbed her breast. It could have lasted no more than a couple of seconds. The other boys who saw it snickered. Boys will be boys, you know. First of all, that's a beta move. It's not an alpha move.
No.
Alpha males don't need to do such things.
No.
So this is totally a Giacomo move.
And if she felt assaulted, he was a beta. I mean, I know enough about the sexual dynamics or whatever they call them to know that if you're truly an alpha, you actually can get away with that stuff, which is it's terrifying on one level, but I mean, that's how you define that hierarchy. So this young man was obviously completely misguided in his feelings of superiority.
That's if this even happened.
Oh,
but
okay. Well,
what
believe the accuser, okay? Wait a minute.
Yeah, wait.
Don't they call the devil the accuser?
They do.
Oh.
The great accuser.
Yeah.
What are we quoting? Pope Francis now?
Well, I don't know. I'm not. Just go on.
So, what struck me about Sandra's story was not that this particular boy did this. I remember too well his swaggering machismo even in his early teens. No, what struck me was the visible, palpable anguish of this woman in her late 50s. Her voice and her body shook in the retelling. Her face contorted in pain and shame. She cried. She didn't know what to do with this now middle-aged man's friend request on Facebook. What also struck me was the at least partial healing that seemed to wash over her as I, a man, listened to her, heard her, believed her.
Is this like some kind of like political?
It's definitely a political.
It almost sounds like a political ritual.
Yes. He goes on to say, I didn't ask her what the big deal was or tell her to get over it already. I mean, why would, if this is a personal conversation, why would you? The accused isn't someone who is of outstanding reputation, apparently, and also doesn't have anything on the line, such as Supreme Court nomination. So there's absolutely no reasonable reason to vet whether this story is true or not.
Yeah.
There's none. And then he goes on to Paul's story. Definitely not the Apostle Paul.
So you know.
This story is really weird. This one's just freaky. Well,
All right,
it's kind
let's do it.
it's not as the high quality fiction as yours.
Oh, great.
It's not.
Well, you know, few can try to raise to that level.
It's true. Wait. Not that that matters.
As
Kinda
long as
off
we're not
balance.
shouting.
So Paul's story. In the first week or two of Paul's relationship with his fiancée, they began sleeping together.
First mistake.
Maybe you shouldn't have fornicated. Sometimes at his apartment, sometimes at hers. Several months into their relationship, around the time that they became formally engaged, he initiated sex with her. On this occasion, she resisted, he persisted. She resisted more, he persisted more. In his male imagination, they were playing a game. He imagined her resistance and her eventual acquiescence as part of the game. This was how culture had taught him to understand seduction. Except that with intercourse accomplished, she began to cry and kept crying. Paul was horrified. He tried awkwardly to comfort her by holding her in his arms. She reacted to his embraces with understandable ambivalence. About 6 months later, they married and started a family. They never spoke of the incident. It became buried deep in his subconscious. After a full 10 years, something began to stir in Paul's memory. Lying side by side in bed with his wife one night, he accused himself of rape and begged her forgiveness. She sobbed, "Finally, you understand," and forgave him. Yet, not many weeks later, she raped him for the first and only time and said, "There, now we're even." She left him 4 years later. Paul blames himself for this, not his ex-wife. His remorse for these things never leaves him. Now he spends his weekends in the embrace of Giacomo. I'm just kidding, I added that part.
That's all wrong, man. That's really. You're right. That is really weird.
I don't think I need to point out how weird that story is.
It makes me wonder if the story is. I mean, what led up to him making this admission? Like it's just like it's like out of the blue. That's not what
I don't
happens.
know.
My
I don't
friend.
know. The story seems 50 Shades of Giacomo.
Oh,
good one, James. Good one. Anyways, he goes on to make like no point, or the point that he makes, the conclusion that he makes from this has almost nothing to do with the stories. So here we go. Christine Blasey Ford's testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee moved me deeply. It was so artless, so uncontrived, so unquestionably authentic. In her voice and in her eyes, I heard and saw my friend Sandra's voice and eyes, my friend Paul's ex-wife voice and eyes, the voice and eyes of countless other women.
but he had probably never seen Paul's ex-wife, so how? Oh, I'm ruining the moment.
I don't know.
I'm ruining the moment.
Both those who have found the courage to come forward and those who remain hidden in the shadows of fear and shame. Well, I didn't find testimony to be unquestionably authentic, nor did half of America, so including countless women who showed up and said that they believe Kavanaugh. That happened, right?
Yeah, it did happen.
Yeah.
I have to say, I think that she could be in big trouble for lying under oath, apparently. But that anyone's going to pursue it at this point.
No, well, she said she's not pursuing any further charges or anything on Kavanaugh at this point.
That's interesting.
So I think the preponderance of evidence says that this didn't happen. You have 3 others who swore under oath that they had no knowledge of the incident. And it just seems like a political hit to me, which is, we're going to get to that a little bit. because suddenly my name pops up in this article.
Oh,
so
wow.
this is where it gets kind of fun. So he says, what relevance does all this have for Orthodoxy and Dialogues readers? Too many men resort to a diabolical caricature of the Orthodox faith to justify their atrocious attitude towards women. We have the whole Russian Orthodox Church standing behind the Kremlin's decriminalization of domestic abuse. We have Herman Sterligov, who beats his wife when she needs it. We have Father.
Wait.
I'll hit
When
him.
she needs it?
Okay. Let me keep going. I'll get back to that. We have Father Joseph Gleason, who teaches that under no circumstance may a wife refuse sex to her husband. Now we have Michael Sisco, new on the scene, trying to get an Orthodox YouTube channel off the ground, with a video that begins with him gloating into the camera. This past week, Christine Blasey Ford accused Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault when they were in high school. You know what that means, right? He asked her to the prom, and now she regrets it. In the quote, I'm not even sure how to conclude this, except to declare, I stand with women.
What if the women are sitting? What if, like, they want to sit?
I don't know. I guess, wouldn't it be misogynistic to remain standing?
But in the ancient world, when the teacher sat down, everyone else stood up. So maybe he's proclaiming his subservience to the matriarchy.
It's true.
It could be.
Yeah. Anyways, he's got some facts wrong here.
Fake news.
Fake news. Giacomo is fake news. But let me tell you,
Whoa.
he's really
Cringe.
a homo.
Cringe and blue pill. Cringe and blue pill.
What?
Cringe.
So, okay, the first claim, the entire Russian Orthodox Church standing behind the Kremlin's decriminalization of domestic abuse. He's missing some facts here. I went to the Library of Congress, actually, apparently they have a report on this. And so I downloaded the PDF. I'll try and put that in the description when we finish. So the Russian Orthodox Church, they criticize the law as lacking moral justification and legal grounds. They argue this, but it wasn't as simple as like a husband beating his wife. The wording was what they opposed was that it would end up being that a parent who like disciplined their child would face a stronger penalty than if the neighbor had done the same thing. So that is why the Russian church opposed the law. It has nothing to do with them supporting domestic violence in the sense that we would normally think about it. I'm sure Giacomo actually knows this, but he's not honest enough to tell you because he has his own agenda, which is to liberalize the Orthodox Church. So whether you're Orthodox or Catholic or whatever, if you're watching my show, you probably don't want to see the liberalization of anything.
Amen.
He goes on. His next claim, which is Herman Sterligov.
Beats his wife? Is he still beating his wife? Do you realize that is the classic?
Well, everything that I actually
question.
could find actually substantiates this claim. And then he even wrote a book, which his wife helped to promote, and she's in the book, and she apparently justifies the beating of her.
Well,
so she's apparently supportive of this behavior.
Maybe she's a self-aware shrew.
I don't know. I'm not down with the whole wife beating thing, so
neither am I.
I'm not going to touch on Herman Sterligov. I don't really quite fully know what's going on there. I haven't read the book.
A little bit weird, nonetheless.
It's yeah. Nor do I. Of course, it's terrible if that's really happening, and maybe some Stockholm syndrome going on if she's out publicly supporting getting beaten by her husband.
Maybe there's some kind of weird fetish. I think that's probably more likely.
A fetish. Yeah.
Yeah, like she's masochistic.
Yeah, but she's using Orthodox argument. They're attempting to justify this with Orthodox traditionalism.
I mean, people use whatever language and whatever reasoning is available to them.
Yeah. Well, it's not normal, but
no, it's definitely not normal.
Anyways, he then goes on. Father Joseph Gleason, he's actually the the priest who moved to Russia with his family, the Antiochian priest. Who teaches that under no circumstances may a wife refuse sex to her husband. So I'm not even going to refute. I'm not even going to say my opinion. I'm just going to read a scripture and then quote St. John Chrysostom.
John the Golden Mouth?
Yeah, whatever. So I'm going to read 1 Corinthians 7, 3 through 7.
Ionis Chrysostomos.
Let us attend. Let us hear the holy epistle.
Lord have mercy.
Should I chant this? No,
this
don't.
Is not the
Okay. I won't chant. No
You're
more
not
chanting.
a lector.
No more chanting. So 1 Corinthians 7, 3 through 7. Let the husband render to his wife the affection due her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. Now, according to Herman Sterligov, that might be a little rougher affection.
Tough love. Beast. And red. I can't do it. Oh, God, forgive us.
The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another except with consent for a time, that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again so that Satan does not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. But I say this as a concession, not as a commandment, for I wish that all men were even as myself. But each one has his own gift from God, one in this manner and another in that. So it sounds like, Mr. Giacomo, that husbands also aren't allowed to. It goes two ways.
So if he was forced upon by his presumably perhaps wife, then he was disobeying the apostle.
Yeah. Well,
That's pretty. Yeah. Wow. Man, dude.
Well, don't you know that Giacomo knows more than all the church fathers and all the apostles?
What is his IQ?
His IQ has to be like 165, obviously.
Smarty.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. 65. 65.
That's like higher than 50, right?
It is. So,
wow.
I'm trying to find what I planned on reading.
Well, did you highlight it?
It did, but not very organized.
In a consistent way.
Well, there's a marriage as a sacrament. This isn't John Chrysostom. This is whatever I pulled up. But it might be helpful because apparently Giacomo doesn't understand what marriage is. So, marriage as a sacrament is sacred and a holy act. It bases on the natural bond which is generated by the mutual consent of those men and women who come into a communion of marriage. It is necessary a husband should surrender his life for his wife. Where is this quote? Okay, here we go. There we go. This is St. John Chrysostom right here. Maybe. Yeah. Okay, so Christ ordered with the mouth of Paul not to deprive one another, but some women were removed from their men, which with supposedly desire continence for the sake of piety, and she pushed him into adultery and whatever that means. One spouse will not be deprived from another without agreement, and he explains with clear words that nor does a woman stay away from the wedding bed if her husband disagrees. Neither does a man if his woman does not want the same. By this kind of temperance, great evils are born, such as adulteries, fornications, and family breakdown. The inability of one spouse to respond to the marital duties with the other causes constant temptations, frustrations, and conflicts. So the calm, the harmony, and the peaceful coexistence into marriage are lost. If this happens, the love between the spouses is ruined, and the piety is useless because it banishes love. What is the profit of fasting and abstinence when the love breaks? None. Well, that's a church father right there.
Regarded by both East and West as a great pillar of
Yes.
church.
Yes. Wow, we're 30 minutes in already. Well, that's cool. Your interview is going to be short. So, I did want to go through these emails.
I have to admit, I've read them before, and you were very polite with him.
Oh,
And he could only act the way he did by prejudging your motivations. And I think that you would have been willing to have him on in a fair way if he had treated you fairly.
yeah. So this all came about. I got on his radar because he did the open letter to the bishops, and I wanted to have him on the show to discuss the letter. And so I sent him an email. Why don't you be him and I'll be myself.
Let me
So-
set aside this guitar.
I wasn't sure that Giacomo was the editor because he signs everything as the editors, but what he really means by the editors is just himself. I don't know why he does that. So anyways, I say, to whom it may concern, my company would like to establish dialogue and potentially do some collaboration with the editors of this publication. Who are the editors by name, and how do we contact them? In Christ, Michael. Now, just verify. I didn't ask for a last name there, did I?
No.
No, okay.
No.
So
So you know,
you-
you just want to know how to contact them, so
So-
you know how to address them.
So
in a
you
letter.
be Giacomo, right?
Dear Michael, usually when one asks for a full name, one gives a full name.
Smiley face.
You can communicate with me at this address, Giacomo Sanfillipo, editor, Orthodoxy in Dialogue.
Why does it say editor, not editors?
Because he's one person, right?
Yeah. Anyway, Mr. Sanfillipo. Forgive me, the last name is Sisco. I have a live stream show on YouTube, and I suspect that we have wildly differing positions. My show is generally political theory and social commentary. It doesn't say Orthodox, right?
No.
So my show, he said my show was an Orthodox podcast.
It's not. This is not an explicitly Orthodox show, even though
It's
we
turning
is-
into, yeah.
yo
I mean,
yo.
But it's not. It wasn't intended to be. It's a reactionary. It's supposed to be neo-reaction. Okay. However, I am myself Orthodox Christian, and I've noticed that your work with this blog has started quite a stir, to say the least. I'd like to have you on, either live via call-in or in a produced, not live setting, to discuss and clarify your positions. Is this something that you'd be interested in? Link to my channel. Cheers, Michael Sisco.
Okay.
Mr. Sisco.
Oh, here we go.
He starts with Mr. Sisco.
Mr. Sisco, after a brief perusal of your YouTube channel and Facebook timeline, I'm not sure what you think we possibly have to say to each other. Thank you for thinking of us, though. Giacomo Sanfillipo.
Man, it couldn't even use it like sincerely or anything. Mr. Sanfillipo, I appreciate dialogue with those who disagree and who are willing to have civil discussions. My show is fairly new, as you can see, and I'd like to set a positive precedent of presenting opposing viewpoints on my show in a respectful manner. Would you like further clarification as to what I'd like to discuss with you on the show? I assumed that given the name of your publication and the fact that we are both presumably Orthodox, that this would be something you would be eager to do. I look forward to working with you. In Christ, Michael Sisco.
Mr. Sisco, for context, I'm working on an article called Man to Man. What too many men don't get about male versus female sexual assault. You, on the other hand, reduced the allegations against Brett Kavanaugh to, you know what this means. He asked her to the prom and now she regrets it. You also have a video entitled something along the lines of LGBT insanity. So no, I will not implicate myself in bringing new viewers to your show. Kindly do not write again. Giacomo Sanfillipo.
Mr. Sanfillipo, I understand your trepidation. I'm sure that you can also understand how people who disagree with you may also find the headlines and titles of your content offensive as well. Respectful dialogue is something that we're interested in an attempt to understand people that we find offensive. The same courtesy from you would be accepted with graciousness. You're always welcome to write and reach out to us. God bless. In Christ, Michael Sisco. And the next response was my name in the article that he hyped up so hugely in my email. I was expecting something with like substantive, non-anecdotal evidence.
It looks like he just simply repeated in the article what he had already read in that email.
Yeah, well,
so he didn't actually do any additional research on you because he was already writing the article.
Well, all he did was he watched my videos and he perused my Facebook page
But he did that during the email exchange. He didn't do any. It doesn't look like he did any research afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't
because
look
he
like...
already mentioned the thing that he mentioned in the article.
Yeah, that's it. But anyway, I would like to point out, I was gonna make the
better work.
I had the thumbnail set as this, but we had to change that with our technical issues. But it's the About Me section. It says, Orthodoxy and Dialogue launched as an independent publication in August 2017 to provide a space for the open exchange of ideas relevant to Orthodox Christianity, reflective of our commitment to Orthodox, ecumenical, and interfaith dialogue. We publish writers who represent a wide spectrum of interests and perspectives, both within and outside the Orthodox Church. So my question is, Mr. Giacomo. So what I get from this is you are open to dialogue. You would just like it to be in written form. So if I submit to you some work, will you publish it?
Maybe you will.
I'm gonna write for you. I'm gonna submit it to the email that I have, and we'll see if it goes.
Is spectrum wide spectrum? Do you think it's a euphemism for diversity, which is also a euphemism?
I mean, his spectrum seems pretty narrow at the moment, but
yeah, but it means everything but someone like me.
That's true. Anyway, so the reason to why I brought you on. Well, first of all, who are you?
My name is Garth T. Ogle.
Wow.
The very same. Now, people will think that that's a pseudonym, but it's not. This is the actual name that I was given. It's amazing.
Do you have your driver's license on you?
I'm not showing my driver's license.
Wow.
You'll just have to take my word for it.
Yeah,
I'm publishing a book under this name, okay?
Well, that was the next question.
I'm not Daniel Defoe.
Okay, well, you skipped ahead and you ruined my next question, but that was the big reveal, right? So, what is this book? Without getting into the too many details, so that people have no reason to read it. What is it?
It's a very short novel, not super short, but it's very brisk, and it's science fiction, and it's set in the future, as you would expect, and it is about questions of human suffering, existential questions, and the answers to those questions. And answers are actually provided to these questions within the novel. They may not be the answers that everyone loves, but I provide answers to these questions within the novel. And it's
so what are some of these existential questions?
For example, what's the purpose of suffering? One of the key things for example, that a lot of people go on about these days is about harm and suffering. They say, well, to cause somebody to suffer is evil. And if you think about earlier questions having to do with the Christian religion, there were some people who felt that if God was responsible in any way for people suffering, he must be evil. And so they recreated a sort of, ditheism. But the point being that the question of suffering is significant, and why do people suffer? If you could eliminate suffering, would that be something you would want to do? And I think that there are a lot of people in our society today who sincerely, with moral conviction, want to reduce, if not eliminate, human suffering. And so this story itself directly addresses that question. What would it take to eliminate human suffering? And would you be willing to do it?
Okay. What is the setting for the book, for the story?
The story, even though there are some very brief parts of it that are set on Earth, it's set in a fantastical, in a sense, space station in a solar system that is distant from ours. The story doesn't explain exactly where the solar system is. Don't have enough time to do it. If there are follow-up stories, depending on how well it does when we publish it, some explanation may be given to where that particular solar system is. It may or may not be terrifying.
Terrifying. And what is your book called?
It's called The Bowl. The Bowl. The Bowl.
Not a marijuana bowl.
Not a marijuana bowl,
No.
but like a cup. The Bowl of Tears and Solace. Tears and Solace. We got some.
James says, "It is true, I am in love with suffering, but I am not so sure I deserve the honor." James, you just need to become Orthodox. Become Orthodox.
Based and red pill.
Don't you want to come over here? So instead of dealing with Pope Francis,
Francois.
you can come deal with schismatic Bart and Giacomo. He says, "I don't like to suffer that much." That was a good one.
Fair enough.
That was a good one. So what is the plan for the release of your, when is it supposed to come out? Where is it debuting? And where can people find it when it does?
Well,
Do you know the answers to this?
well, I can try to answer those questions,
Okay.
right? So it's going to come out in November. It's been a while brewing, and it will probably be premiered at what? Doxicon?
Yep.
I believe so.
Doxicon 2018,
Yep.
Washington, D.C.
Yeah, should be a blast. I don't know, this is the first novel I've ever published, though I've written a whole lot of stuff before, and I've written reams and reams and reams of poetry, but none of it's been published, not in any place that anyone watching the show would know about. So this won't be my first venture writing. Just to be clear, I'm not some kind of novice at this, but this is going to be the first time I've actually put effort behind publishing something and promoting it. So we'll see how we do.
Yeah.
It's a fun story.
Yeah, I had a chance to help with the editing process, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I look forward to, I think I'll read it again when it's actually in book format.
Yeah.
So
See
that
how
I can
it
have
reads.
it. Yeah.
I'm interested to see how it reads as a book, because I've only
Yeah.
ever read it as a constant scroll of text while I was writing it and editing it. So
Yep. Well, we should have it ready for print next week, actually.
great.
Friday. Well, not get into that. You're hands-on with the website, right? And that we'll be able to order the book directly through our site, not Amazon. It'll be available on an ebook format on smashwords.com, because we hate Amazon. Forget Amazon, they're evil.
Amazon truly is.
They're actually run by Satan. Did you know that?
Really?
Yeah. Lucifer himself is the CEO of Amazon.
I thought it was Geoffrey Bezou.
He's just a
Geoffrey
lieutenant.
Bezou.
Lucifer.
Well, so that explains why he's gotten so much stronger.
Yeah.
Power of the devil.
But anyways, when can we expect the website to be up and running for?
Well, I think prior to the book, probably a week before the book comes out, we'll probably have a preview page up. I don't know. I
Okay.
suppose we're taking pre-orders.
We
I
are.
believe so.
If you're interested in pre-ordering the Bowl of Tears and Solace, well, first leave a comment. Just leave a comment. Comment in the comment section, and I'll reach out to you with our email address and how to get a hold of the publisher. And we are taking pre-orders. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's all I have about your book. So next week we have. I'm excited about this show. Another author on.
Oh.
Michael Witkoff. He is the author of On Freemasons and Their Lies, What Every Christian Needs to Know. So I myself am a former Master Mason. He was a 32nd degree Scottish Rite. So I imagine that's going to be a lengthy conversation. That'll be quite interesting. So, and I had a chance to read his book, and what struck me about it is there was no hysteria that's not true. I can affirm from my experience that everything was factual, and minus the hysteria that you find on a lot of the anti-Masonic texts on the internet. This was just real facts. He he mostly hits on the philosophy and the beliefs, and how that directly opposes Christianity, especially Christianity in its true form. Wink, 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 James. Wink, wink. But for those of you who are one schism removed, there are several papal edicts out against Freemasonry as well. So this definitely applies to you. So anyways, same time next week, and I look forward to seeing you. If you like our stuff, anyways, if you like the show, please hit like, share, and hit the notification button. And please consider contributing to our Patreon site. That way we can keep putting out better content and improve the quality of our content and our production value. So see you next week. Thank you. If I can figure out how to end it.
Arrows in a straight blue garment, the owls began to call. It grew wise to by thinking.
Can you figure out how to end this stream?